The Ark of the Covenant, also known as the Ark of the Testimony or the Ark of God, was a religious storage chest and relic, considered the most sacred object by the Israelites. Religious tradition describes it as a wooden storage chest decorated with solid gold, accompanied by an ornamental lid known as the mercy seat. According to the Book of Exodus and 1 Kings in the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament, the Ark contained the tablets of the law, through which God delivered the 10 Commandments to Moses on Mount Sinai. According to the Book of Exodus, the Book of Numbers, and the Epistle to the Hebrews in the New Testament, it also contained Aaron's rod that budded and a pot of manna, the bread from heaven with which God fed the Israelites in the wilderness. The biblical account tells us that about a year after the Israelites left Egypt, the ark was made according to the pattern that God had given Moses when the Israelites were encamped at the foot of Mount Sinai. The poles of the gilded acacia chest were then lifted and carried by the Levites approximately 2,000 cubits, 800 meters or 2,600 feet, ahead of the people as they marched. God spoke to Moses from between the 2 cherubim on the cover of the ark. Jewish tradition holds various views on the ark's fate, including that it was taken to Babylon, hidden by King Josiah in the temple or underground chambers, or concealed by Jeremiah in a cave on Mount Nebo. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church asserts it is housed in Axum. The Lemba people of southern Africa claim ancestral possession with a replica in Zimbabwe. Some traditions say it was in Rome or Ireland but lost, though no verified evidence conclusively confirms its location today. It is honored by Samaritans, symbolized in Christianity as a type of Christ and the Virgin Mary, mentioned in the Quran, and viewed with spiritual significance in the Baha'i faith. The Ark of the Covenant has been prominently featured in modern films such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and other literary and artistic works, often depicted as a powerful and mysterious relic with both historical and supernatural significance. The Ark of the Covenant has been prominently featured in modern films such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and other works of literature and art, often depicted as a powerful and mysterious relic with historical and supernatural significance. Academic debate continues among biblical scholars and archaeologists regarding the history of the Ark's movement in the ancient Near East, as well as the history and dating of the Ark narratives in the Hebrew Bible. There is also further scholarly debate regarding possible historical influences that led to the creation of the Ark, including Bedouin or Egyptian influences. According to the Book of Exodus, during his 40-day sojourn on Mount Sinai, God commanded Moses to build the Ark of the Covenant. He was shown the design for the tabernacle and the furnishings of the Ark and was told that it would be made of shittim wood, also known as acacia wood, to hold the tablets of stone. Moses commanded Bezalel and Oholiab to build the Ark. The Book of Exodus gives detailed instructions on how the Ark was to be built. It was to be 2 cubits long, 2 cubits wide, and 2 cubits high, approximately 131 by 79 by 79 centimeters or 52 by 31 by 31 inches of acacia wood. It was then to be overlaid with gold, and a crown or molding of gold was to be placed around it. For gold rings were to be attached to its 4 corners, 2 on each side, and through these rings were to be inserted poles of acacia wood overlaid with gold, for carrying the Ark, and they were not to be removed. According to the book of 2 Maccabees, at the beginning of chapter 2, the record shows that it was the prophet Jeremiah, moved by a divine message, who gave the command that the tent of meeting and the Ark should go with him. He then set out for Mount Nebo, from the summit of which Moses had seen God's promised land. When he reached the mountain, Jeremiah found a cave dwelling, and he brought the tent, the Ark, and the altar of incense into it. then blocked up the entrance. Some of his companions came to mark the way, but they could not find it. When Jeremiah learned of this, he rebuked them. "The place will remain unknown," he said, "until God finally gathers his people and shows them mercy. The Lord will bring his holy things out again, and the glory of the Lord will appear with the cloud, as was seen both in the days of Moses and when Solomon prayed for the sanctuary to be properly consecrated." In the New Testament, the Ark of the Covenant is mentioned in the Epistle to the Hebrews and the Revelation of John. Hebrews 9 verse 4 says that the ark contained the golden pot that had the manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. Revelation 11 verse 19 says that the prophets saw God's temple in heaven opened, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church claims to possess the Ark of the Covenant in Axum. The Ark is kept under guard in a treasury near the Church of Our Lady of Zion. Replicas of the tablets in the Ark, or tabos, are kept in each Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo church. Each tablet is kept in its own shrine, each with its own dedication to a particular saint. The most popular of these are Saint Mary, Saint George, and Saint Michael. It is often claimed that the Kebra Nagast was composed to legitimize the Solomonic dynasty that ruled the Ethiopian Empire after its establishment in 1270, but this is not the case. It was originally composed in another language, Coptic or Greek, then translated into Arabic and Ge'ez in 1321. It tells how the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I with divine assistance, while a forgery was left in the temple in Jerusalem. Although the Kebra Nagast is the best-known account of this belief, it predates the document. Abu al-Makarim, writing in the last quarter of the 12th century, makes an early reference to this belief that they possessed the Ark of the Covenant. The Abyssinians also possessed the Ark of the Covenant, he writes, and after describing the object, he describes how the liturgy is celebrated on the Ark 4 times a year, on the feast of the Great Nativity of Christ, on the feast of the Glorious Baptism, on the feast of the Holy Resurrection, and on the feast of the Illuminating Cross. In his controversial 1992 book The Sign and the Seal, British author Graham Hancock recounts the Ethiopian belief that the Ark spent several years in Egypt before reaching Ethiopia via the Nile River, where it was stored on the islands of Lake Tana for about 400 years and finally taken to Axum. Archaeologist John Holliday of the University of Toronto calls Hancock's theory rubbish and nonsense. Edward Allendorf, a former professor of Ethiopian studies at the University of London, said he had wasted a lot of time reading it. In a 1992 interview, Allendorf said he had examined the Ark kept in the church at Axum in 1941. Describing the Ark there, he said, "They have a wooden box, but it's empty." A construction from the Middle to Late Medieval period, when these were made, implying that the Ethiopian Ark was not real, but a fake. On June 25, 2009, the Patriarch of the Orthodox Church of Ethiopia, Abune Paulos, announced that he would announce to the world the next day the discovery of the Ark of the Covenant, which he said was kept safely in a church in Axum. The following day, he announced that he would not be opening the Ark after all, but would instead be able to verify its current condition. The Lemba people of South Africa and Zimbabwe claim that their ancestors carried the Ark south, calling it Ngoma Lingundu, the voice of God, and eventually hid it in a deep cave in the Dumji Mountains, their spiritual home. On the 14th of April, 2008, in a documentary on Britain's Channel 4, Tudor Parfitt, taking a literalist approach to biblical history, described his investigation of this claim. He said that the object described by the Lemba had attributes similar to the Ark. It was of a similar size, was carried on poles by priests, was not allowed to touch the ground, was revered as the voice of their God, and was used as a weapon of great power, sweeping away enemies. A good plot for a Hollywood movie. In his 2008 book The Lost Ark of the Covenant, Parfit also suggests that the Ark was taken to Arabia after the events described in 2 Maccabees, and cites Arab sources that claim it was brought to Yemen at a distant time. DNA genetic analysis in 2000 established a partial Near Eastern origin for some of the Lemba male population, but no specific Jewish connection. Lemba tradition holds that the Ark spent some time at a place called Senna, which may be Senna, Yemen. It was later transported across the sea to East Africa and may have been taken inland during the Great Zimbabwe. According to their oral tradition, it self-destructed some time after the Lemba arrived with the Ark. Using a core from the original, Lemba priests built a new one. This copy was discovered in a cave by a Swedish-German missionary named Harold Philip Hans von Sickard in the 1940s and eventually ended up in the Museum of Humanities in Harare. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hosea of the 2nd century claimed to have seen somewhere in Rome the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, which represented the mercy seat. According to his account, there was a blood stain on it, and he was told that it was the blood with which the Jewish high priest sprinkled the lid on the Day of Atonement. Accordingly, another legend claims that the Ark of the Covenant was kept in the Basilica of St. John Lateran, surviving the sack of Rome by the Visigothic king Alaric I and the Vandal king Gaiseric, but was ultimately lost when the basilica burned in the 5th century. Between 1899 and 1902, the British Israelite Association in London conducted limited excavations at the Hill of Tara in Ireland in search of the Ark of the Covenant. Irish nationalists, including Maud Gonne and the Royal Society of Antiquaries of Ireland, RSAI, successfully fought to stop them before they destroyed the hill. A non-invasive survey by archaeologist Connor Newman, conducted from 1992 to 1995, found no evidence of the Ark. British Israelites believed that the Ark was located in the tomb of the Egyptian princess Tewahedo, who, according to Irish legend, came to Ireland in the 6th century before Christ and married the Irish King Eraman. Because of the historical significance of Tara, Irish nationalists such as Douglas Hyde and William Yeats voiced their protests in newspapers, and in 1902 Maud Gonne led a campaign against the excavation of the site. Many Malays claim that the Ark of the Covenant is buried somewhere deep in the jungles of their island. They have a family tradition that they are a lost Jewish tribe from Zedekiah, the high priest of Israel, and that he came there in 66 after Christ to bury it. This idea was recently presented in the article The Location of the Ark of the Covenant Discovered, by Mike Edery. In the article, he claims that a Torah codex from the Baal Shem Tov reveals its current location on the island of Malaita. Also, in 2013 a journalist named Matthew Fishbein visited the island in the hope of finding the Ark on the island of Malaita. He interviewed several Malaita residents who told the story of how the Ark ended up there. Although he was unable to find it, the legend still lives on today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the Golden Treasure channel. Stay tuned for new updates and give the video a thumbs up in support.